Alex Hormozi is one of the most influential businessmen on the planet, but he is also an amazing conversationalist. He's constantly able to talk to people in a way that is keeping them and the millions of people watching hanging on every word. And he uses some surprisingly simple tactics that you can copy to become more likable, charismatic, and respected when you talk to people. So I'm breaking down his most recent interview with Logan Paul to show you exactly how to do it. I'm Isaiah, and I make videos to help you become more likable, confident, and connected. Let's dive in. And this first tactic is going to make everyone enjoy talking to you a lot more. And it's that Alex understands the goal of every conversation he is in. Now, this is something I'm going to make a more in-depth video about in the future, but every conversation has an underlying goal. And when you go away from that goal, it leads to a ton of awkward moments and the people not really feeling good in the conversation. For example, some conversations are transactional, like if you are buying something from a McDonald's worker. If you start to open up about your day, they're going to be like, bro, put the fries in the bag, right? On a similar note, if you're trying to comfort somebody and you start to unload stories on them or you start to give them advice, they are not going to feel good about that conversation. They're going to feel like you are trying to overtake the narrative. And here with Logan and Mike, he understands the goal is to connect with them, for them to understand him and for him to understand them. So to go towards that goal, he does some really interesting things. Here, Mike asks him what his favorite philosopher is. And this is what he says.
My favorite answer, philosophical answer, which is kind of dark, but I really like it, is like, what's the meaning of life? And it's like, the reason you don't kill yourself is the meaning of your life. And I thought that was like actually really profound. Someone's like, I don't know what the meaning of my life is. And you're just like, well, why don't you kill yourself? Sounds dark, but it's super aggressive, but it like cuts to the absolute point of like, okay, well, I mean, my mom, my family, it's like, great. That's the meaning of your life.
Wow.
So I hope you caught it. Alex didn't take the question as super literal. He was asked what is his favorite philosopher. And if he had just answered like Socrates or whatever, then the conversation would have been at a lull and then it would have been tossed back to Mike to ask another question and to dig more answers out of Alex, or the topic would have changed entirely. But instead of giving that bland one-word answer, he goes into his favorite philosophical concept and pretty much blows their minds. Although it wasn't strictly the information they were asking for, because it was going towards the goal of connection and understanding Alex, it made for an even better moment. So for your life, when you talk to people, try to understand what the underlying purpose of the conversation is. When your coworker asks you how your day was, don't just say good or fine. They're probably trying to understand a bit more about you, of what your day was like, maybe what your week or how you are doing. So even though you mightn't have a good answer for how your day has been, you can tell them your plans for next week or how last weekend was or something interesting that happened in your life in general. And I'm sure they're going to appreciate it because the point of that conversation is towards connection. On a different note, if you're on a date and the girl is asking you what your job is, she is probably evaluating you. That's the purpose behind the question. So if your job isn't impressive, you can say something else about you that is impressive. Maybe your ambitions or your dreams or something you do in your free time. Or you talk about your actual job and show her the impact that you're making in your job, and that's going to impress her a lot more. That is how you win in conversations, understanding the underlying goal. The next tactic that Alex uses is great because it kills awkward silence before it happens. And it's that he shares stories about his life even when he's not asked for it. So here, Alex was just asked where he met his wife, Layla, and see what he says.
How did you guys meet?
Bumble.
Are
you serious? Yeah.
Was the first date in like a boardroom?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, where did you guys?
No, we went to Froyo because I was like,
Oh, that was nice.
yeah, she tried to cancel on me the night before, and I was just like, well, she's like, I feel sick. I was like, you sound fine. I swear to God, I was like, you sound fine. I'll see you tomorrow. And so she shows up, and then right as I'm walking up, I'm walking from behind where the frozen yogurt place is, and she's got like a sundress on, but she's got these two angel wings on her back tattoo. And I was like, fuck, like, what am I getting into?
So unprompted, Alex dives into some funny stories and some early moments about their relationship. But let's look at the alternative, right? He could have simply said, oh yeah, we just met on Bumble. And then that would have led to an awkward silence because he would have felt like he answered the question. But now, again, it's on to Mike and Logan to pull and ask another question to get an answer out of him. Or they might move on to a different topic entirely. That would have been a very awkward moment that I'm sure you felt in your conversations where both people are like, oh, where do we go now? But because Alex dives into these stories, and this is something he constantly does in the podcast and in talking to people in general, by the way, he is able to avoid that awkward silence and make conversations from very simple, factual exchanges into these deep and rich interactions between people. And how you can do this in your day-to-day life is to think about your own life. And it's something we don't actually do that often. Think about moments in your life that was super memorable to you. Think of what was the most notable thing to happen this week or this month or this year. And have those little stories in the back of your head that you can dive into when you talk to people. Because when you share more about yourself and your story, it lets the person understand with you more and relate with you more. It leads to these more deep and rich conversations, and it just makes the conversation more enjoyable and memorable for everybody involved. Now, before we dive into the third thing that Hormozi does, I just wanted to let you guys know that I am offering free advice sessions to give you personalized tips on how to become more likable, confident, and connected to people. If that sounds interesting to you, click the link in the description. Now, this third thing Alex does is the reason he's so respected by millions worldwide. And it's that he speaks his mind without a fear of rejection. And you can see it wherever Alex shares his thoughts, whether it's in this podcast or any of his other media.
One of the other pieces that I think about a lot, which is like if criticism is fixed or hatred is fixed, I think the quality of your hater, right? Like
Stop. This is the most important part. No, this is the most important part ever.
And you can see it leads to a lot of really interesting moments and spikes in the conversation where people are sort of blown away by his thoughts or really deeply thinking about how he feels. Imagine if you could create those spikes in your conversations. Now, of course, Alex has a ton of wisdom and experience and a really unique worldview, but you can have very similar effects even if your life isn't super interesting. And it all stems from not holding yourself and your thoughts back. How often in conversations do you mask your emotions or your true feelings about things because you're scared that the people will disagree or not like the way you think? When you do that, you rob yourself of the opportunity to make these moments in conversations. These moments where people are like, oh wow, he thinks the same way that I do. Or, oh wow, that is a really interesting opinion. You're robbing yourself from allowing people to think that about you. All because you're scared of rejection. And that hurts you in two ways. One, like I said, it robs you of opportunity. But two, it means that people are connecting with a fake version of you. They are connecting with a version of you that hasn't truly shown your authentic thoughts. So it makes you come off as less likable because you're not being as authentic and as free as you want to in conversation. And the person leaves with the wrong perception of you, meaning when they come back to you and you try to interact or be friends, they have a different idea of who you are in their head. So they are not going to treat you the way you want to be treated. They are not going to have the types of conversations and the topics that you want to have. And those might be the types of conversations you've been craving. Now, obviously, this is scary and it's vulnerable. And the only reason Alex can do it so freely is because he has a ton of practice. And that is what I would encourage you to do. Get used to speaking your mind. Get used to sharing the vulnerable bits about yourself. First, in small moments about things that barely matter to maybe people you know, and then increase the levels to things you really care about. An example from my life really recently is I used to be very self-conscious about sharing that I make these videos with other people. I just felt like they would think I'm weird and lame, and they might be like, who are you to talk about social skills? And there might be a lot of judgment. But with time, I started to get used to it. I would tell my sister and my family and then closer friends, and now I'm comfortable talking to my coworkers or strangers strangers and letting them know what I do. And this has led to a lot of really fascinating conversations with other people who are like also really into social skills, or people who give me compliments and like, yeah, I could totally see that you do that, Isaiah. It makes so much sense. Those were moments that I was craving, that type of encouragement and stimulation. And I finally got it when I got out of my own way and started speaking my mind. So please speak your mind. It's going to make you way more authentic, way more respected, and it's going to make your conversations that much more enjoyable. Now, I have a fourth bonus tip, which is from Mike and Logan Paul, but it's arguably one of the most important tips you'll hear in this video. And that is to be genuinely curious. So obviously they are on a podcast. So it means that they want as much as possible to understand their guest, and so that their guest can talk as much about themselves so the audience can hear it. But this is actually still a really great way to approach conversations, to have genuine curiosity and to ask questions again and again and again until you understand the person fully. You'll see this throughout the whole podcast. They ask him really from basics to like, where did you meet Layla, to like, how is your relationship, to really deeper questions like, do you guys ever get into fights? Do you guys ever have conflict? So that they can have a better picture of what it is like to live as Alex. I think that is a brilliant way for you to approach your conversations. When you're talking with someone, especially if they're new, to feel free to ask question and question and question until you understand the person as a whole. It's something that actually makes people feel really well liked and respected, but there is a right and wrong way to do it. I actually have an entire video where I talked all about this method of communication that you can check out right here. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and at least learned something that can help you in your next conversation. I've been Isaiah, and above all else, I hope you keep connecting. Take care and good luck.